Good day and welcome back to another Dbz Dokkan battle video. In this video we are going to take a look at the new Super Strike for the INT Android 16. So this is the Gentle Destroyer Super Strike mission and it's pretty straightforward. Obviously we have 4 stages. The first stage drops copies of Android 16, the second one drops the Awakening medals to awaken him to a SSR, then the second stage drops the medals to awaken him to a TUR, and then the final stage drops the medals to awaken him or Extreme Z awaken him. Obviously, just important to take note that Android 16 obviously is pretty strong. He looks really decent. He has a very nice EZA that makes him pretty strong defensively. Of course, with all Super Strike missions, it is important to note that they can be quite difficult, as you don't have any restrictions on characters that you can take through. In terms of his EZA, essentially you have his EZA being very defensive. He has attack and defense of 160%, defense of 80% when facing 2 or less enemies, and a high chance of guarding all attacks when all allies attacking in the same turn are Android Cell Saga characters. He guards all attacks when facing 3 or more enemies, and he reduces damage received by 60% when guard is activated. Overall, he's pretty strong, and he's really good on an Android Cell Saga based team. The effective category for this Super Strike is Power Absorption. So if you're running Power Absorption, then you are going to be able to utilize, you're going to be able to pretty much find good old Android 16 a lot easier. In terms of the missions for this event, it is pretty straightforward. Most of them are very simple. Leveling up his super attack to level 10, clearing stage 1, clearing stage 2, Z awakening him, raising his super attack level to 15, unlocking one path of his hidden potential, unlocking all paths of his hidden potential, clearing stage 3, clearing stage 4, and then there are special requirements for stage 4, clearing it within 5 turns, clearing it within 10 turns, clearing it with Cell First Form on your team, and clearing it with a Power Absorption team. So because of those requirements, we're going to build a Power Absorption team right off the bat. Now, just a full warning, we do not unfortunately have a Power Absorption or 6 Power Absorption category units. So unfortunately we do not have 6 Power Absorption category units. So essentially we are going to have to basically kind of like do 3 of the free-to-play units, which we will be using. We're going to be using the First Form Cell as a lead, and then what we're going to do is we're pretty much just going to kind of build the team around that. We're just going to basically have a whole like bunch of World Tournament units, because a lot of people classify them as free-to-play units. I don't necessarily classify them as free-to-play units, but a lot of people do. So basically, yeah, we're going to essentially kind of run with that concept. So we're going to have a free-to-play team, half free-to-play and half World Tournament. Again, World Tournaments kind of not really like what we want to focus on, but it's the best we can do. I'm also using the Strength Evil Boo because he's pretty common and he's a fairly decent unit, so I'm going to probably focus on using him for the most part. But yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to the whole like stage and team building and everything. Obviously it's just going to depend, guys, on what your box is, but try and complete the challenges because it really helps with the Extreme Z Awakening medals that you'll need to awaken Android 16. But yeah, so pretty straightforward. There's nothing too much more to say. The first stage, as I mentioned, will drop him. As with all these Super Strikes, please be aware of how many copies you actually need of the unit. So for example, in this situation, you do honestly actually want I think you want in total 15 copies, because you are going to get some copies from the mission. So you just want to raise him to SA 10 and then you want 5 additional copies for the extra SA that you're going to need when you easy AM. So you're going to need to farm 15 copies of his SR, so that you can have 1 copy at SA10, that's going to be the unit that you use, and then you're going to have 1 copy at SA5, that's obviously going to not be the unit that you use. The next thing that you need to be aware of is obviously the missions. The missions drop 5 SSR units. It's very important that you take notes of this, because the missions drop those 5 SSR units, and they are going to first be used for the hidden potential. Please make sure that you do not raise his super attack level to 15. You do not need to do that. You first want to make sure that you raise his hidden potential paths, and then you want to start working on raising his SA to 15. Remember, all Super Strike units start with 10 SA and then get 15 SA, and then they get a level 20 SA once they awaken, and then, or sorry, when they easy A, they get their level 20 SA. So it is very important to be aware of these things, and to just make sure that you remain entirely on top of that premise. So that is important. Other than that, it's pretty much kind of straightforward. There's not too much else for you to focus on in terms of like just the overall kind of overarching design also of what you need to get. You will need to get 2 sets of medals. So whenever you pick up medals, if you're picking up 10 medals, because obviously you want to awaken him first, you need to get 20 of those, and you're going to need 7 medals to awaken him to his TUR stage. You're going to need 14 of those. So just remember that you are going to need double of those, because you need to awaken the second copy all the way to his Dokkan Awaken status, so you can feed it into the Easy Aid version. So that is something that's just obviously to keep in mind while you are kind of going ahead with everything. Other than that, there's really not too much that I would say you need to focus on. It's all relatively straightforward. The event itself is pretty simple and pretty basic. I don't think there's anything, like if you've done a Super Strike before, it's all pretty stock standard now, and they're all fairly common. Like I would say, the only real thing I would take notes of is that he is int type, and if you are using the cell first form, of course, that means you're going to have a tech type unit. So try and just stay on top of that and be a little bit careful of where you place that cell. You don't want to end up taking too much unnecessary damage, because then that's obviously going to cause you some issues. So beyond that, you should be fine. Like I said, I don't foresee there being that many issues. Players shouldn't really have any issues with Super Strikes now. They can be a lot tougher than you think. Like, they are a lot more difficult than you probably think they are, because they don't have restrictions on units. They can generally be a bit more challenging, but that's fine. Most players will be able to do it fine. If you are struggling with the category challenges, just accept that the Easy A medals will take you a little bit longer to get, and you'll just have to do a couple additional runs. And yeah, but other than that, you should be fine. You won't really have too many issues, and you should be able to somewhat enjoy how everything's going, basically. Like I say, I think overall the Super Strikes are pretty fair in terms of their difficulty, and I think they are pretty honest in terms of how they keep players coming back for some pretty decent units. Obviously, we're now onto the extreme stage. This is the Easy A stage, essentially, and it can be pretty challenging. He's quite tough. He is pretty strong defensively. He has quite a lot of health in the armor and defense, and that it does seem. So just try and bring units that have crit. The game does suggest to bring units that have crit, because they can help you out quite a bit, to be honest. So try and focus on that. Try and bring some crits. Try and bring some attack lowering, defense lowering. Ideally also some healing would also be really great. You don't have to follow this team build. This team build is not ideal, but it's going to get the category challenges done, and it will get the 10 turn challenge done. So that's obviously cool and great and is helpful, but you can definitely do a much stronger team. So don't feel the need to kind of, you know, how do I say, don't feel the need to run essentially this team. It only really guarantees you the category challenge, and it is mainly focused on using free-to-play units. So there are definitely better ways to go about it. You 100% can have a much better time. In terms of everything else, just to remind you that obviously Android 16 does require quite a few medals to awaken. He requires 15 bronze, 40 silver, and 30 gold and 30 rainbow. So those are what you're going to have to make sure that you farm, just so you can make sure that you stay on top of however many you need. It is going to help you out a lot. So if you are wondering how many you need, you will need that many. The missions do help you out a lot. They give you 6 essentially of each, which is quite a decent chunk. And there's quite a lot of missions, so you only have to run it 3 times if you complete all the missions. If you do not complete the missions, you'll have to run it 6 times in total. So just keep that in mind as well, that it does progressively help you out to complete the missions. It's going to save you a lot of time and save you a fair chunk of stamina as well. You're going to have an easier time, shall we say, if you just simply focus on what they give you and finish those challenges, and then you're not going to have that bad a time. So yeah, but his EZA is definitely well worth it. I do suggest it. He becomes one of the strongest, if not I think the strongest Android 16 in the game. Definitely defensively, he's right up there. Obviously, he's quite restricted to not so much an Android Cell Saga team, but more so an Android Cell Saga based like rotation at least. So more a heavily centered Android Cell Saga based team, more so than just an outright Android Cell Saga based team. And there's enough great Androids right now that you can definitely run that kind of team without that many issues. I don't think you'll have that many problems trying to run such a team. It's got quite a lot of powerful members. The new Cell is out, second form Cell. INT Cell's a lot better now. They've got a 200% lead. So yeah, just overall, obviously a pretty strong like category now. So I think, you know, there's no real pressure or stress, or I don't think it's quite limiting for him. Obviously, he's quite restricted on categories. I think you just have to accept that generally with a unit that only appears in a single instance in the TV show. Like, it is quite difficult to say, hey, you know, why isn't he on 1,000 categories? Well, you know, he was only there for a little bit, so it is something to take note of. But he's on a decent amount. Target Goku, Artificial Life Forms, Androids, Artificial Life Forms, Android Cell Saga, Target Goku. He's on Saviors, which is a little bit weird, but and he's on Connected Hope as well, which is also a little bit weird because this is technically the extreme version of Android 16, but it's all fine. I was hoping he would be on obviously Dragon Ball Heroes. That would have been quite helpful, but he is not, but that is okay. He's a pretty good unit overall, and I think anyone who pulls him will be quite happy with what they've pulled. Overall, in terms of everything else, I think the EZA is pretty straightforward. These Super Strike EZAs are a very simple process, and they reward quite a fair amount of stones. You'll get over 20 stones for this whole process, which I think is pretty fair and pretty good. It is, ideal, or a bit more ideal, obviously, to get stones from events. I think people prefer to get stones, and to get 20 stones now just before the anniversary is definitely a very good pickup. As you can see, we're kind of struggling through this strength phase. I do suggest bringing the AGL Cell over the Physical Boo. As much as Physical LR Boo does a lot of great damage, he doesn't necessarily link up with some of the more common power absorption category units unless you're running a very Boo heavy lineup. But yeah, overall I find that it's pretty kind of centered around, or at least I found a lot easier to have that transforming Cell. He's type neutral obviously during the INT phases, but by then he is, he's pretty much transformed, which means he has a high crit chance, and he's doing like 8 million attack stats. Not to mention, during the strength phase, he helps out way more and is absolutely no threat whatsoever to being defeated. So yeah, I found that the AGL cell worked a bit better. You're welcome to use whoever you want. It doesn't really matter too much as long as you are using the best units that you can. Essentially, you're going to be more than fine. You're not going to run into that many issues, and you should be more than okay to take on this event. Realistically, I just found the cell, the first form cell, the transforming one, to just work a lot better. I just think his team, higher lead skill for some of the units, he himself, great amount of damage, really helped out. So yeah, I found him to be a bit better, but you're welcome to use whoever you want. Just be aware that if you're using physical units, there is a strength phase sandwiched in between, and so it does tend to cause some issues. Not a lot, not like it's impossible or anything, but yeah, it is definitely a lot more challenging than you might think, just because obviously he can hit pretty decently hard. Like I said, they don't balance these based on free-to-play teams necessarily. They balance it on the fact that players are just going to use whichever units they can out of their box. So yeah, just be aware of that and you'll be fine. But otherwise, yeah, I don't really see too many issues coming to players. Like, I don't think you have to run this team, otherwise you're going to have problems. But just be aware that you can have some issues during that strength phase if you are going for a traditionally heavy physical lineup to combat the INT phases to try and beat the 5-turn challenge. I found Cell to work best, so I would suggest you run Cell, and I think that'll get you the best result. But yeah, overall, pretty solid performance, and yeah, the team did really well. So I was really happy with everything, and yeah, for me, no real issues. I know some people might have issues, and that's why I'm showing you the free-to-play options that you have. Although unfortunately we are a little bit limited because power absorption category doesn't necessarily have the wildest options in terms of free-to-play units. Like, it's got first form Cell, but he's not necessarily the most intense unit in the world. He's decent, but he's not like insane. And yeah, that's kind of it. The Celis, the Ohms unit is not great either. He's aged quite a bit now. I hope they give him an easy A at some point with a Dragon Ball Heroes event. But yeah, he definitely has some issues. So yeah, overall, you've got decent options, not the best free-to-play options. So try and work around that as best you can, and then you should be good to go. So yeah, but otherwise, overall, I was pretty happy with the team, the build, everything like that. And I think, you shouldn't really struggle with this event, so don't panic or anything, you'll be more than fine. But yeah, that's it for stage 4. We're just going to go through the missions now for a little bit, and then we'll be pretty good to go, I think. So yeah, just be aware of a couple things. Just the strength phase, obviously making sure that you bring enough physical units that you can counteract those phases. And then yeah, otherwise everything else should be more than fine and you should be good to go. In terms of the other missions and other things, just a reminder obviously to make sure that you do them step by step. It is going to be best for you to do them step by step. You're going to have a lot better at time. You're not going to lose out on efficiency or doubling up on resources or anything like that. So that is obviously very good and is fantastic. Other than that, the missions are very straightforward. Just raising his SA, completing the stages, and of course meeting those category requirements. In terms of everything else, I think it is, just remember to farm double the medals. That is going to be something that is pretty good for you overall. And yeah, just farm double the medals. Make sure that you farm 2 sets of medals each time, so that's going to be very good, and then you should be more than good to go. That's going to help you out a lot. So yeah, for me, nothing else too major to take note of, guys. And yeah, that's going to be it from me. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like if you did. Leave a comment if you need more help. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. So until then, take care, stay safe, bye.